feeds itself. You can think of just about any aspect. This building can sit on its own and just do what it's supposed to do. We were building it, and I was ready to put it down. And again, I wasn't the principal then. This was Professor McDonald, Archie McDonald, and we were ready to lay it down. And again, he asked my advice, and I asked some people, and they said, no. Change the orientation of the building. And I'm like, okay. Well, I never did architecture. But as you do the research, you find out changing the orientation changes the wind field. You therefore don't need air conditioning if you open all the windows and change the direction so the wind always blows longitudinally through the classrooms. Makes a difference. Also, change how the roof is adjusted so that you can get solar and get the maximum. So all of these up here, my pointer is, all of these here are solar panels. And you notice there, just like how you'd put up a little zinc roof. So whether it's morning or evening, you're catching sun, you get maximum out of it. The research drove the building. So this building is now an example for anywhere in the Caribbean, anywhere in the world, that wants to build a zero energy building. Generates its own power, has its own water, and is totally self-sufficient. That's sustainable development. But you could start with a simple rainwater harvesting project, which the idea is to take what you can collect, have it, and remember, harvesting means take it, keep it, use it sustainably. So you probably are doing this already. Expand it. Could you get to the point where you don't need to take from anywhere else? At the university, we actually used research. Our geology department helped us do the research to find out that there was actually water flowing under the university. We therefore found partners who were able to help us drill a well. So the university now has a well. It is deep, much deeper than wells are supposed to be, 800 feet. I mean, we're at 500 feet, and we said that is normally the depth at which you find the water table stop. But no, they were confident in their research. They stood by what they believed in, and they said, no, drill. Drill, baby, drill was for water, not oil. We kept on drilling at 823 feet, they found water. And that has been supplying the Mona campus for the last 8 years. Our biggest problem is actually finding somewhere to store it so that we can, give the pump a rest and feed the rest of the campus. So we had to build a storage, and that's another story altogether. But you can do rainwater harvesting. It gives you one control over your water. So drought becomes less of an issue, and drought is going to be an issue with climate change all the while. It's here and it's never going away. So manage your intake so you conserve, manage your output so you have drought, and of course it's environmentally sound. We built a medical building, and this building was just before we did the net zero. In fact, we're kicking ourselves and say, if we knew then what we knew now, how different that building would have been. But that building had its own benefits in that we did have it oriented properly. We did have some features, like it does have some solar, not enough to run the whole building, but even that, colleagues, is an advantage. If you know that your need is 50 kilowatts and your solar can give you 20, that's 20 less you have to pay for in another system. Take out the money part, it's 20 that you have control over and 20 that's sustainable and renewable. You're making less of a contribution to what's happening with greenhouse gases, and you're being sustainable. This building, the one I want to show in this is that we actually, at the top, we put in some water catchment devices, which are actually planting boxes. So these are all boxes on the roof, which all have plants in them. Collected the water, because of course there's condensation, not just rainfall, but as the plants trapped. Collected that water, and that water is what is now used to do irrigation for the rest of the complex, as well as flush all the toilets. So we reduced, even though we think we have free water, and by the way, free is a concept, nothing is ever free. It's somebody else paying for it. So even though we were redirecting the source of the funds, we're also redirecting the opportunities. So that's something else you could think of as you build new buildings, or if your buildings can take the weight load, put on solar or put on boxes in terms of water catchment. Solar is a favorite, and I want you to think about solar incremental. Don't get up and say you're going to put up solar 1 million panels one time. You want to put up a starter unit just to see that it works and get the right panels. It is amazing how technology has moved, and a panel 10 years ago and a panel now, the cost is about 1/10 now of what it was then. 10 years ago, you couldn't think about storage. You just had to make the power, use it same time. Now you can actually store. In fact, the first time we went to storage, there were some big lead acid batteries, look like big car batteries. Now we're doing lithium, lithium batteries, which are half the size and run all day, all night. Technology moves, and you need to move with it. So start and grow and grow. Double the number of panels, double the batteries. Double the panels some more, double the batteries. So there are ways to make it happen. School efficiency is important, and I know that there is a project at the Ministry of Education where, in partnership with private sector, there are a number of schools. 30 schools across Jamaica have already been solarized, which, as I say, makes the impact in terms of demand on the grid, but also makes an impact in terms of your sustainability and what happens within the school system. Again, I will take my example, which is the Discover Bay Marine Lab, for where I'm the director, since I'm in marine sciences. That lab started, let me show you the image. That lab started with just these panels here, nothing up here. We then got these panels, we then got these panels, and then these panels. Now the lab is completely covered. The lab is completely self-sufficient, and as of last month, the lab is selling back power to JPS. You can get there too, incrementally. Added to that, because education is important, it is now a teaching tool for our physics and the MSc in Natural Resource Management and Energy Management, where we actually teach, using this as a platform, how to get something like this set up, how you can build it, how others can use it, how much energy is used, how clean the energy is, and where you can place it. So they're great examples. Solid waste management, always important. And whether you're doing things like coastal cleanup or the little jingle that Jet got us started with No Dirty Up Jamaica, there are things you can do which make a difference in terms of sustainable development within your environment. Take them on. Participate in all these events when they come up, but those are special days. But why not participate right at home? Why not do it in your school, in your college? Why not spin it off right there? So you can take advantage of the principles of other sources and take them on board for yourself. However, let the research drive. Again, I'm using my home example. So plastics are a problem, and we know that. So we have a project that we started. You'd have heard Mr. Williams introduce me. I was once the Grace Kennedy Chair in Environmental Management, and they funded these containers here, which we got first 100, then 1,000, then 3,000, and we put them through all. There's 300 on campus, and then we did schools. When we talk about impact in the community, we did Mona High, Mona Prep, we did Hope Valley Experimental, with all the schools in a certain area. Then we did JC, then we went. So we put them in as many schools as would have them. They collected plastic bottles, and then we would work with Recycle Partners of Jamaica to come and collect the bottles. Now, here is where sustainability is important. You give a college or a school some of these, and nobody come to collect them after 2 weeks. You have defeated the purpose. All your students will going to say, "Yeah, waste my time, man. I do all of this, and then what's the end product?" So you must have continuity for sustainability. Other bit of research that I'll leave you with. We found that if the regular garbage bin and your plastic recycle bin were more than a meter apart, there was a 73% chance that they would not be used. Say again, if your regular garbage bin and your plastic recycling bin are more than a meter apart, there's a 73% that people would not use it. What I do? It is human nature. I have my patty bag and I have my juice bottle. If they are more than this apart, dop, it doesn't happen. Yeah. Otherwise, I go, throw them in there, so, or throw them over there, so, and I'm gone. So we need to put them close enough, and we need to let the research drive the placement, drive the opportunities. So it's very important that you take that on board as you do the things you're going to do. So apart from the sustainability of collecting it, you then need to figure out how you position it and let the research answer it. Our middle answer, by the way, is when we couldn't get this concept, we started to have places on campus that would say, we would ask our maintenance team to just empty this every so often, keep it in a central place. So when Recycle Partners did eventually come, they could go to one place or two places and collect rather than collecting from 300 around the campus. But that's operationalizing what you do, but it's a part of management sustainability. You can do that too. The way I convinced the university is that we looked at it in terms of amount of garbage. So the plastic is where I started, and on-campus depot went to recycling partners. We then looked at all the trees and cuttings. Remember I tell you 650 acres. We cut tree, and when you cut over there, so by the time you finish, you reach over there, so it's time to go back over there so again. I never see grass grow so fast. But compost is what we should be doing. And if we're taking it to our Riverton or any other facility, you can look at how much you do in terms of office waste. We've been measuring this and doing the calculations and presenting as a part of the government's plan of a waste to energy. We keep on here, we don't have enough waste to make it viable. I disagree. Just from the university, we have enough waste. And I think if you did the same thing on your campuses, all your colleges, you would find we make enough waste to make it happen. So, something as food for thought is sustainability. Lastly, I'll talk a little about climate change, which, as you know, climate is changing. There are things that are happening that didn't used to happen before, and not everything that happens is climate change, but climate change impacts everything that's happening. Say again? Not everything that's happening is climate change, but everything that's happening is being impacted by climate change. So we need to think about where does it work, where does it not work. And the example I want to leave with you is agriculture, because I was at CASE the other day and talking to them, another tertiary institution that we partner with. How do we make this happen? Well, we found out that many farmers were doing the right thing. They weren't doing it because of climate change, but we're doing it because it makes sense, and that's sustainable, and I thumbs up to that. But we want to be sure that they were thinking it through, and some things they were doing were counterproductive because we didn't educate them. So we need to educate this generation of students as well as the next generation of students. And you know what I love most about colleges, generally tertiary education? While at primary and secondary school, you go to school because mommy and daddy say you must go. Auntie and grandma say if you don't go, you know what you're going to get. When you get to tertiary education, students there are there because they want to be there. Most of them, not just the next step, it is an investment in myself. It is going to make me a better person. So you already have a different mindset. And why is that critical? Because you, especially the teachers, and I'm sorry if I go on and on about teachers, but my mother and father are both teachers, and I end up being, you know, I promised them I wouldn't be a teacher, and here I am, head of a teaching. But teachers, you have a blank slate to write on. Every year, a new set of students to influence, to change their mindsets, to improve who they are and what they can do. Very important you take that job seriously. Don't abdicate, because guess what? If you don't, other people are going to take the space and write on that slate. Rainfall has changed in Jamaica, and just in 1 year. So this is January rainfall. Down here, the brown mean dry, dry, dry. The brown it is, the dry it is. That is all of Jamaica. 2023 was the driest, longest drought and hottest year in Jamaica. The 2024 data just coming off now, so next time I give this talk, I will add another slide for that. So that's January, that's February, even drier. When you get down to October, remember the lighter the color gets now, yellow means more rain and blue means yes, we have flooding. End of the year is when we got some rainfall. And then more than you can manage, we get flooding. So all of Portland and St. Thomas now had flooding, and that's why the roads out there have issues. So don't tell me that the roads are because of climate change, but climate change influences the roads. It also influences what you can do and what you can grow. So Jamaica is known for its bananas. Using computer modeling, using the scenarios that we have, we've run 4 models. 2 of them are present here. This is from CEAT. This is not my data. This is from CEAT. And the suggestion is that current day Jamaica would have, go back one, current day Jamaica would have areas that can grow banana. Green means good. The brown means bad. So you're not going to grow banana in this part of Jamaica, but you can grow them here. You know that. You grow them out in Hanover and Westmoreland, and you're growing them in St. Mary and Portland. That's going to get better by 2030 because of the change in temperature and the change in rainfall pattern. We should start thinking, okay, what should we move our products, our crops to? Or where should we move our crops and crops to? By 2050, the suggestion is that we're going to get even better So there's going to be an 18% increase in suitability for growing bananas in Jamaica. So if you have a little money put on there, Dr. Blake, you can invest in some bananas there. Similarly, another crop they picked was ginger. And again, I tell you, this is not my data coming from SEAT. Currently, again, the brown areas are bad, green areas are good. As temperature and rainfall change with climate change, because remember, climate change don't just mean going up. It means higher variability. It means periods of drought, periods of flood change, when you get it, how much you get. Because think about rainfall. I mean, I don't want to take too long on and give you a lecture. Rainfall. Rainfall is measured in millimeters. If I tell you that you're going to get 200 millimeters of rainfall, you're going to say this is good. If the 200 millimeters of rainfall is spread over a year, you can get 20 this month, 30 next month, 15 the next month, even 0 the next month, and then 20 the next month again. But if I give you all 200 millimeters of rainfall one afternoon, you're picking up everything down in the harbor because everything gets washed out, everything gets moved. We've had flooding in Montego Bay. I mean, cars were floating. The rainfall for 6 months happened in one afternoon. So here, a change in temperature and rainfall is going to determine where ginger will be successful. And now this is a 27% less suitable for growing ginger. But yet, ginger is something that Jamaica is supposed to have a niche advantage on. So we need to think, as we do sustainable development, what are we going to grow? Where are we going to grow it? What crops should we be doing? What crops ought we not to be doing? Do we need to have more greenhouses to try and protect from this? Or should we be looking at moving from one place to another? There's a guy who just did his PhD who found that growing sweet potatoes in Portland is now going to be less viable because Portland is now not necessarily the most rainy parish. It is now Hanover. So you should be moving your crops to somewhere else. But let the decision be driven by the data, which is what I want to leave you with. Finally, small island developing states need help, yes. But they're also an oasis that can help others because we have more access to some of the resources that we've been sustainably surviving with. We should use that as a platform to show others. It is up to us to use our resourcefulness of what we have to make a difference. And Trenchtown Politics is a good example. Use the resources that you have within your setting to show the advantage that you have. Take advantage of your positive. Others want to mirror some of what we do, haven't seen what we do. We need to share that, but let that share come with a price, and the price is partnership. So partnership is a key part of making sustainable development work. So if I leave you with anything else, a couple of thoughts. Develop, design guidelines for your new construction. What is there already? You can't change it? Well, you can, but we're going to talk about that. Whether it's landscape, whether it's transportation, build with sustainable development in mind. Reuse what you can in terms of spaces, especially for the benefit of the institution and the students and staff who are there. Take advantage of the spaces as they stand. Incorporate good engineering designs so you build to match what you require. Research, drive the data. I think I've said that so many times this morning. Let the data drive the decision. Don't make the decision and then say, oops. Because I tell you, if you make a decision based on the data you have, and tomorrow new data comes out, the decision wasn't wrong, It was based on the data at the time, the best information. If new information comes along, you say, well, if I had known then what I knew now, I would have made a different decision. But I made the best decision at the time, driven by the data of the time. Repurpose and renovate wherever possible. Whether it is a lab, a building, an office, do that. Before you jump and decide you're going to do solar, do the audit and say, oh, I'm burning too much over there. I mean, the first thing we did was to change, at the university, we changed all the bulbs from incandescent. We went to, first of all, fluorescent, and then we said, no, we're just going all the way to LEDs. That means you don't have to generate as much as you thought. You actually can use less panels to get the same amount of light. So repurpose in a knowledgeable way. And that will all limit the carbon that you produce. So today's takeaways, what I wanted to take away. When it comes to sustainable development, be deliberate. It's not going to happen naturally. It's not something that just will happen. Even though you do sustainable things, until you document them, bring them all together, you will not take control of them. So be deliberate. put it in your curriculum, do stuff. Mainstream it. Make it happen in every office. Make it happen in every building. Challenge people. Set up a green team. Tell those who are doing it why they're doing it and let them report back. Hold them accountable. Retrofit sustainability if you can. So if you can't pick up the building and change orientation, but you can certainly decide you're going to put on some things, you're going to change some design, you're going to add something to it. So retrofit wherever you can. Behavior changes are required. And this is where you need sustainability. Behavior changes, behavior science will tell that it takes years to change a behavior. And there will be time that you will think you're not making progress. But here is where we need to rely on what's called intergenerational equity. What I am seeing now, if I told my parents that this is what was happening, they would laugh me out the room. When I tell my children what I have done at the university or what I am doing now, they're saying, but Daddy, we do that long time. I mean, you're stale. Intergenerational equity is what gives you the chance to change behavior. What is now norm for youngsters, we used to have to go fight to learn them. Establish partnerships, critical. Like the partnership here with J-TEC and TTPC, good partnership, I like it. We need to see more of those. Environmental management, well, this is a pet peeve for me. Guess what? Left alone, the environment would manage itself. It don't need nobody. It can do its own thing. What we need is people management, because it is our impact on the environment that's causing the problem. Environmental management is a misnomer. You should call it people management. And finally, alumni can make the difference. You see how much I listen? You and I were on the same wavelength in the Madam Chair. The alumni from all institutions, having benefited, good, bad, or ugly, you have benefited. You ought to give back to that institution. So when they do want to do solar, they shouldn't have to go run up and down and look for the funding. Your career is now where it's at because this institution put you there. Reach back and help. No, you can't do it alone, no. Not unless you are Bill Gates and can dig it deep. But do your part. Form the rest of your alumni. Get your thoughts together. Let the class of 2022 be the group that produces rainwater harvesting for Block C or wherever it is. Make a statement as an alumni. We'll put up a plaque and put your name on it, no problem. But make an impact, because that's how you, having been the next generation, can make a difference. Sustainable development is a mindset, but your mind is the mind that has to be set. Thank you.
Wow, what an insightful, well-researched, and inspirational presentation. Did we enjoy that keynote address? Yes. Thank you so much, Professor Dale Weber. And, now I'm motivated to go pursue something in sustainable development and all of that, yes. And, of course, it's only fitting that the final charge is addressing the mindset, saying your mind is the mind that needs to be set. But the good thing is we're all here. We're a part of this symposium today. We're here. The partnerships are established. Each of us now have a part to play in terms of gathering the information and taking action in our respective spaces. So at this time, I'll invite Mr. Tremaine Allen from Trenchtown Polytechnic College to make a special presentation to our keynote speaker. Yes. And I'll invite Professor Weber up as well.
Want to extend special thanks to this mammoth of a gentleman, Professor Weber, for his for his inspiring address. Your leadership and commitment, Sir Weber, to sustainability shared through your presentation this morning is inspiring and has highlighted the importance of our collective efforts. Your timely reminder of the increasing relevance of sustainability in educational efforts and how we can be champions of that which we have in our immediate environs is appreciated. We accept the challenge, Prof, and commit to being deliberate, mainstream individuals, retrofitting that which we can to cause a change in behavior, leveraging the partnerships and managing our environment. Thank you, sir.
You got the message. Thank you so much.
I
Keep being
appreciate
a
it.
good leader.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Allen. So I want to get a little crowd participation, right? I realize you've been listening a lot this morning, but I want to bring you into the conversation. And I have a little pledge for all of us today as it relates to sustainable development. So I want you to repeat after me. I pledge to use education and research to transform places, empower lives, and create a more inclusive, sustainable future. I have the mindset, so let's get ready, get set, and go. All right, so you've all made the commitment now, so the team has heard you. We have it on tape. We have witnesses, so it means that this team will be the group to lead the charge as it relates to promoting sustainable development through education and playing our part in advancing the agenda for quality in higher education. So we're going to embark now and break out into our different sessions. We have our breakout. Oh, right, our entertainment. No, I didn't forget them, though, Jamaica Con. Yes, but just to give a little, prelude to what's going to happen. I know we're short a room, so I'm going to ask, or rather I'll be making an announcement as it relates to the adjustment of that session for the concurrent sessions that we have. We'll have 3 breakout sessions after this. I'll make the announcement for where to go, as we know we had to do some adjustments. So we're going to give you some entertainment now, and I'd like to call up the team from Jamaica Con to make some noise and give us some good vibes as we go through. So give them some love as they make their way to the stage. Jamaica Con. Oh, Mr. McCarthy, just acknowledging. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning. He's the principal of Excelsior, one of the partners for today's event. All right, give it up for Jamaica Con. Hold on, gentlemen, don't leave just yet. We have to acknowledge who you are, so just tell me your names. Daniel, Jamar, and Ruel. Give them another round of applause, please. Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. They are actually from the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts. Of course, you know, feel free to reach out to them for bookings for your next research-based events. Of course, we're promoting the talent that we have access to. So thank you all so much. I really enjoyed that performance. You know, the dancer in me wanted to start doing all kind of things up here, but no, we're working. All right, so at this time, I'd like to officially announce that the inaugural Symposium of Applied Research has now officially begun, and it's a 2-day event. So we'd look forward to seeing you and more persons tomorrow. But of course, today we want you to go forth and network, but also to pay attention to the information being provided. You know, ask questions, challenge the status quo, don't make any assumptions, and use what you've learned to take action in your respective spaces. So thank you all for joining us for the opening ceremony. And at this time, as I mentioned, we'll be moving into our concurrent sessions. At present, we've made some adjustments, so we'll be remaining in the rooms as advised in the booklet. So caucus room 1 will be the concurrent session for Strand 2 with Ms. Danielle Williams and Mr. Sean Simpson. We have caucus room 2 for Strand 4 with Dr. Devon Crossfield and Mrs. Delia Brown Woolley, along with the moderator, Ms. Chantal Doyley. And then caucus room 3 for Strand 4 on AI and Artificial Intelligence of TVET and STEM with Dr. Steve Lawrence, Mrs. Nermaine Hemmings Holland. That will be in caucus room 3. So please feel free to scan the QR code so you have access to the booklet, all the presentations, the topics that we'll be discussing today. And yeah, have a wonderful session, and we look forward to seeing the results of this 2-day event. All right, so give yourselves a round of applause, and we look forward to the excellence to take place. All right, so we start back after lunch in this room, but we'll forego the break, so please just head directly to your sessions at this time. All right, thank you.
This is room 1.
All right, so just for those remaining in here, so caucus room 3 is the room. Caucus room 3 will be discussing AI of TVET and STEM. So Dr. Steve Lawrence will be here, and Mrs. Nermaine Hemmings Holland will be here for that session. So if you'd like to be a part of that session, you can remain in this room. But for persons who would like to hear about the demographic influences on digital transformation in education, you can make your way to caucus room 2, which is just back that way. And then caucus room 1 will have the discussion from farm to fork, the role of agro-food processing in the mitigation of persistent poverty. All right, so 3 excellent sessions to start. Then we'll have lunch and gather in this room afterwards.
with Dr. Steve Lawrence and Mrs. Normaine Hemmings Holland. I'm just going to do a brief bio, and then we can begin. So, Mr. Steve Lawrence is a distinguished pedagogist and technology strategist specializing in the integration of artificial intelligence within technical and vocational education and training and STEM education ecosystems. With over 25 years of expertise in research, education, and innovation, Dr. Lawrence has consulted globally across governments, academia, and industry sectors, focusing on capacity building and strategic technology adoption. At the core of his current research, Dr. Lawrence explores how AI augmentation transforms instructional methodologies, fosters student engagement, and enhances graduate employability. His work emphasizes bridging gaps in literature by providing empirical insights into how AI personalizes learning, streamlines institutional processes, and bolsters the competitiveness of education systems in small island developing states. He is committed to advancing strategic innovations and fostering sustainable and scalable practices in the digital era. Dr. Lawrence is a prolific contributor to academia with numerous publications addressing pedagogical innovation, digital transformation, and the future of education. His dynamic research efforts underscores his dedication to harmonizing AI technologies with educational ecosystems for transformative outcomes. Can you give me a hand, please? All right. Mrs. Normaine Hemmings Holland is a dedicated educator with over 15 years of experience in literacy development and education. She holds a Master of Education in Literacy Studies from the University of the West Indies, a Bachelor of Arts in Primary Education from Northern Caribbean University, and Diploma in Teaching from the Micro University College. Currently a lecturer at the Vocational Training Development Institute, she has also served as a literacy specialist and adjunct lecturer and contributing to student and community growth through innovative curriculum development and instructional design. As a co-author of the Alpha Zen PEP series workbooks and a researcher in language and literacy practices, Hemmings Holland is passionate about improving educational outcomes. Her work includes creating a language and research unit for literacy development and publishing research on engaging teaching strategies. With strong expertise in curriculum development, literacy methodologies, and multimodal instruction, she is committed to fostering transformative educational practices through research and artificial intelligence augmentation. Mrs. Hemmings Holland. All right, now I welcome both presenters to the stage, and I will ask you to hold your questions until the end, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Good morning, everyone. Are you able to hear me at the back? Okay, good. All right, so today my co-presenter and I will be taking you through some research we have been working on. Now, the challenge is it's an unpublished paper, so we'll be very discreet about what we share, because we have had the instance where we have shared content and then it was borrowed and published before we got to the printing press. So let's journey together. Now, when you think of augmented, what comes to mind? And you can just shout from the floor, augmented. What comes to mind? Anything? Yeah, fragmented is an interesting perspective. I've never entertained such, but supplemental, supportive, what else did I hear? Impactful. All right, I'll take that. So what we'll be looking at today is augmenting innovation in education school systems using artificial intelligence. Now, AI is the biggest buzz. For those people who are in the stock market this week, if they were invested in NVIDIA, they would have taken quite a hit. And for those who know, they have been the primary driver of artificial intelligence back-end power, because they are the producers of the processing that is used in that area. And coming out of China, we have now a new challenger, DeepSeek, that is doing far or equivalent with way less. And anytime somebody is able to undercut the market, it's a disruption that is welcome. So now we are now welcoming the artificial intelligence disruption of Jamaica's educative landscape. Now, the background of the study, we're going to be looking at some literature that we reviewed while we were doing our research, and looking at what are some of the things that are signaling is good for us as a small nation state hoping to do big things in a big world. One of the other things that we want to pay keen attention to is the fact that even though artificial intelligence is disruptive, it also holds the potential of harmonizing all that lays before us. So Lady Holland will take us through the purpose of the study, review some of the literature, and then I will discuss with you some work I did in Upper Canada using artificial intelligence to support indigenous people. Lady Holland.
Thank you, Dr. Lawrence. Good morning, everyone. As my co-presenter has said before, we don't want to give away too much of our information, so we'll just be touching a part of it. But the purpose of this study is to explore key educational opportunities for artificial intelligence in reshaping teaching and learning within the Jamaican context as Herald Industry 5.0. And that was by Lawrence 2004, is a man standing beside you who would have done who would have gone in depth in that research. And then we have Cheng et al. 2019, where another purpose of this study says to explore augmentation and innovation and the future proofing of learners through the lens resource allocation to support educational innovations. And now from the literature, what we have garnered, how AI tools can enhance learner advancement, what came out from the literature, we looked at that it is used as a real-time progress tracking. So for instance, access to academic performance data, AI tools provide parents with immediate insights into their child's academic progress, enabling timely intervention when necessary. So in traditionally, we know that at the end of a semester or maybe at the end of a year, that's when parents would have access to their child's report. But AI comes to change all of that. Amen? We are in church. Another thing from the progress tracking, it's customized alerts for academic milestones. So teachers, students, parents, guidance counselors, and student support network can receive notification about important deadlines. So it doesn't matter where you are, you will get notification, just like when you use your regular apps, you'll get notification to say that church begins when, but with the AI, it will give you the deadlines when your grades are due. Also in your attendance, it will also be notifying you, and also to allow you to stay engaged with your child's education. Another thing that came out is visual analytics for easy understanding. So AI-driven analytics visually represent performance trends, helping parents and learners grasp progress of the learner at a glance. Another one that we observe from the literature is enhancing study habits through AI tools. The first one, utilization of AI study apps. And we have so much study apps that we can use. Many Jamaican students are adopting AI-driven study apps that personalize learning and helping them to focus on their weaknesses and improve study efficiency. So there are times when you will find out that there are children that are lagging behind. These study apps can assist them. And then we have the AI-powered tutoring systems. Students are benefiting from AI-powered tutoring system that provide instant feedback and resources tailored to their specific learning needs and styles. So for example, we have the Conmigo, that's a tutor that will give you feedback as you go along. Instant feedback is provided. So you're not just left along, right? You know that when you're in the regular classroom, you'll have to maybe wait a period of time, or you would have to set a time schedule to meet with your lecturer or teacher to get to know where it is that you are standing. But using the AI-powered tutoring system, you have instant feedback. Then we have the time management with AI. AI tools assist students in creating effective study schedules, helping them balance academic responsibilities with extracurricular activities for better outcomes. Then another one that we look at is enhancing communication between parents and teachers. So streamlined messaging platforms. And this is a tool that is used to direct communication channels between parents, teachers, and other stakeholders, ensuring all parties are aligned on student needs. And then we have regular updates on classroom activities. So parents, guardians, and students receive automated reports detailing classroom activities and student participation, and fostering a stronger home-school connection through inclusion and supportive networking. And the final one that we also look on the enhancing communication between parents and the teacher is a feedback mechanism for better collaboration. So you notice the educational strategies that are used in promoting collaborative solutions to enhance student learning. That's what we found from the literature that we would have gone through. And then another one that we looked at is supporting personalized learning experience. And I am going to be handing over to Dr. Lawrence, and he will take us through this part of it.
Thank you, Lady Holland. So, as you heard before, one of the primary gifts that artificial intelligence brings to our classrooms is the fact that you are able to scale your resources. I'm not sure how many people have been involved in the hiring process, but you can never find the perfect match for teachers where they are most needed. So wherever you need a literacy specialist, it's usually the hardest person to find to fill that spot. Where you need math teachers, and now STEM is trending on STEAM and STREAM, it's hard to find people with the appropriate training to make that possible. Artificial intelligence gives you the opportunity to kind of tailor what that resource looks like and stand in the gap. Interestingly, early last year, I presented at a conference, I think it was in Montego Bay, and one of the most interesting keynotes I listened to involved a multi-billion-dollar investor bragging about his best employee and his cheapest employee. And what he had gone ahead and done was he had modeled an AI engine as a worker in his investment firm. And this worker, he was paying the worker $9 US per month as a subscription, but was getting millions of dollars in value. That is the kind of power we bring to the classroom. So about 24 months ago, I was stationed on a remote reservation, indigenous people reservation in Upper Canada. A lot of people have heard of Toronto and Saskatchewan and all those, but not many people have heard of Manitoba, and then Winnipeg, and then Thompson, and then Taduli Lake. So those are the flight paths I had to take to get to work, because there were no roads, there were no rails, you had to fly. So I took 4 planes to work. And when you got to the site, you might as well turn off your cell phone because there's no cell phone coverage. Now that was interesting. But for me, I went there on a technology consult. But what I ended up doing and becoming was far different because of the need that existed. I met with the principal there, and his biggest problem was, even though they paid the best salaries in Canada, what they pay on an Indian reservation is sometimes they were like, nope, this is not it. And we've had so many instances where people will pay the plane fare, we ship their things, and then they say, okay, can you ship this back for us? They're gone. We have had record resignation because not everybody can adapt to living in -40, -50. The only time I did not go to work was if it went below -50, then they can't warm the building enough, so it's not safe for anybody to be in it. So those were the conditions. So they face similar challenges to what we face in Jamaica, just for different reasons. So we can't find the people because we don't have enough of the specialized training. They couldn't attract the people because the environment was too harsh for most people to survive. So I'm going to take you through what happened on a local reservation. I'm not sure if anybody has access to this projector, because I'd actually want you to be able to see the... I guess not. Okay. Oh, well, look at God. I think it's actually coming up. Boy, we have some praying people in this room. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Okay. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. All right. So, as I said to you before, where I lived, took 4 planes to work, drops to -50 sometimes. It's the best food, though, because they hunt fish, caribou. Caribou is like Santa's reindeer. So that was delivered to me. I had like an entire freezer of all kind of, it's brilliant. It's an amazing adventure. So I'd recommend that anybody that's into adventures, go look it up and take some flights and go enjoy it. But that aside, one of the things that was interesting about working in Dooley Lake among the Saisi Dene tribe was also the fact that just like us, they had a language barrier. Now, even though we speak English in Jamaica, what is the first language you learn? Patois. Is it really a written standardized language? But do we teach English as a second language? No, we don't. So even though we acquire Patois in the hidden curriculum, we have a challenge because now the student shows up into a classroom that now needs to talk in a second language. And it's not appropriately supported in that way. In the same way, in this tribe, they speak the Dene language, a unique language, hundreds of different unique languages in Canada on these reservations, but their language, it's not English, it's not French, and those are the 2 standardized languages in Canada. So even though all the books we get are in English and French, what they're speaking at home is Dene. And then they have the same problem. They're showing up, they're being matched against the rest of Canada in terms of literacy and numeracy scores, but there's nothing teaching them English and French as a second language because it's supposed to be their first language, but their first language is Dene. So that's their patois, kind of, sort of. But when I got there, I wanted the second literacy specialist just jumped back on a plane and left after 2 days. I said, okay, how can I help? I've never taught literacy before. Lady Holland is a literacy specialist. Half the time she's talking about it, I have no idea what she's talking about. All I know about is phonemic awareness. The rest of it, yeah. But I recognized that the problem was none of them were literate and numerate, or in majority, nobody was reading within their age band compared to the rest of Canada. Everybody was below where they should be because they're not using the language that the books are printed in. So I decided, I'm not a literacy specialist. What tool can I draw for? So this was before ChatGPT. AI was still, because people think ChatGPT was the start, but we were all talking to Siri and Alexa and all of that before, and these are AI engines. So we looked around, we found a subscription for an AI personalized tutor system. And what was keen about this system was that once a student was registered and signed up, they were challenged with different things because it was trying to diagnostically figure out where they fell, right? And then, after a couple of weeks, these were the kind of reports I was getting from even my boys. Now, mark you, I'm not a literacy expert. My first job in December 12, 1996, I started as a math teacher. As a math teacher for 4 weeks. I started a computer department right after that. Never went back to teach math. But this was what we were getting. My boys were getting certificates and awards for coming in their spare time. This is not their class time, you know, and completing 500 math questions. They were spending 5 hours just doing enrichment work, 2 hours on English language. You're not hearing that among your boys nowhere at all. That not happen. But guess what? It was set up using gamification, supported by AI. Everything they did, they got immediate feedback. There was no waiting on a report. There was no waiting until parent-teacher conference. Every action they took, they got an automatic, just as if they were playing a video game. Oh, that didn't go so well. Do you want to try again? Okay, that was excellent. Do you want to try this one? And it gave them it was always as if they were going on an adventure. And that changed the outcome. One of the strengths that I got from it was the targeted learning resources. So if you don't establish literacy and numeracy as a foundation, teaching the rest of the curriculum is almost next to impossible, because that is how curriculum is rolled out, using the language. So we had to kind of solidify the language. The interactive learning experiences made it engaging for all the disciplines across all the intelligences. So whether they were kinetic, visual, or whatever they were, the mix, the enrichment, the gamification, the technology integration, the AI personalization made it more of a better experience for them. And the performance tracking was superb, because not only were they getting feedback about their performance, but guess what? I could track on a cohort level, on an individual student level, what skills were masters, what proficiencies, and I could itemize under English, under math, what they were specializing in, what they were doing well. I could see the trends. We could see what they were practicing and see how they would, the pickup rate of moving between the competencies as they gain mastery. So that is the power of artificial intelligence in the background. Because even if you had a team of statisticians and 5 literacy specialists and 5 maths geniuses on your staff, it's difficult to have this kind of granular, prescriptive reporting, because then you can now plan your curriculum, plan your intervention, plan your resources around these kind of reports. As we wind down, one of the other strengths that I found was the adaptive learning platform. So, for example, we heard Lady Holland talk about the Khan Academy's AI-driven platform. And what it does different, it never gives you answers. It asks you more questions that drive you towards an answer. And that is how we function better. That is how you develop critical thinking skills. So you don't get critical thinking from asking GPT to create XYZ for you. It is designed more of an interrogation of what you already know and scaffolding. I know a lot of you know our students of Vygotsky in his ZPD, zonal proximal development, where you inch out and you build out step by step on what is already known. So that was entrenched in what was done. One of the other things that was important was when you're able to know, student by student, I had to de-identify for privacy because they're children, so under Canadian law I could not publish with their names, and that's how we ethically deal with research. So I could see what they were doing in terms of each individual student, what skills they were practicing, what they were gaining proficiency is, what they were mastering, but it also made me know where they were struggling. So you could be more targeted as well in your taught classes to say, let me spend more time on this topic, let me reteach, let me have an extra class for this. And that had an amazing effect over, after about 9 months in classes where there were no readers, the remediation class, we ended up with readers. As a matter of fact, there was one boy that after a while, he almost caused the program to crash because everybody else lost interest because he was getting every single award, most hours, most English questions, most maths questions. So after a while, we had an award ceremony. I think he was the one pictured here. I had to picture, but after a while, he was moving years beyond his grade level, right? He was functioning, by the time we're done, he was almost functioning at high school level because he mastered everything that was given to him at the elementary level. So that is the power of artificial intelligence. And as we close, what we want is a curriculum in Jamaica. And just like Professor Wallace said earlier, let the data, let the research drive your decisions. We want a curriculum that gives us adaptive assessment, meaning you can't study for tests and just study to the test. It will adapt, so it really digs out what your strengths are and what are your opportunities for development. We're not saying where you're failing, opportunities for development. The actionable results that come from data makes you be able to plan the future and what support looks like and what the resources can be then used for. And the tailored recommendations looks at the students on a student by student cognitive ability level. So even if them neurodivergent, it will tell you, highlight this, these are their strengths, these are, and it will allow them to be scaffolded into the desired learning outcome. I thank you for joining us on this journey. We look forward to reporting on some of the results in a local context, because what the study I started, I did it in Canada, and now I'm replicating it in a Jamaican context. We look forward to your questions and your reflection at this point. Any questions, any suggestions, any words of wisdom, anything you can share it at this point. Moderator?
Good morning, everyone. When will we be able to get access to this research?
The timeline we're working with, I'm suspecting we should be able to publish in about 3 months. So before summer it should be available for consumption in that way. But I'm thinking of us actually, about the middle of last year, the Ministry of Education reached out for us to develop an artificial intelligence guideline for integration in education in Jamaica. I was a part of that working group. So even before this comes out, there's something in the pipeline that will help to guide your efforts within the classroom. So look forward and stay tuned. Yes, thank you for your question.
Good morning. I have 2 questions. The first one is, you spoke about an app in your presentation that you utilized during the research in Canada. One of my classmates would like to know if the name of the app would have, I know you said you had drawbacks to releasing information, but we just wanted to know if the name of the app would have been disclosed.
What I can do for you, I can point you to engines that will provide guidance. So for example, Khan Academy, which is very well known as a training hub, they have an app that now provides that kind of support. Yeah. There's another one that's very popular called iExcel, but it's expensive. It has to be on a subscription basis. It's in Canadian dollars. but you might be able to get your institution to fund it, or might have a benefactor like Dr. God, he might want to donate to your cause and help you in that regard. Yes. Second question?
Yes. So second question is regarding the implementation of this program into our Jamaican curriculum. Is there a targeted age group for this? Because you specifically spoke about students, elementary level students who weren't able to read the standard language. So is there a targeted age group for us?
All right, so I'll answer that in two ways. One, the research is dependent on the need within the society that it is being done. So what I did on that reservation addressed that particular issue. What our needs are, they vary slightly differently in a Jamaican context. But what I can tell you, there's some work I'm doing with Dr. Crossfield where we're looking at early childhood education. Because if you get the foundation right, then the rest of it is much easier because the mechanism is already there. It's just that they're not able to reach to where the fruits are to pick them. So what we will do is more remediation work at the very early childhood education really should be the target. But remediation can take place at all levels and the research will take place. What was unique about that site, depending on the size of the reservation in some institutions, so if it's 100 or 1,000 people living on a reservation, they don't split the institution apart. They just have everybody come to one school, and it goes from kindergarten all the way to high school. And that's one of the most interesting concepts I've ever seen. Very interesting. I went and I toured a number of reservations just to see how it was instantiated, and I think there's a lot to learn from that as well. Because students learn more from students than they actually learn from teachers. And that's what I observed there. Yes, Mr. Walker.
Given a 5-year horizon and minimum challenges and drawbacks, how do you see this research, what kind of impact do you see this research having at that time, at that 5-year horizon? And given, and kind of connected to that, given the volatile nature of AI now, we have seen what DeepSeek has done to the American plants and American companies. So I want to keep it short. Given a 5-year horizon with minimum drawbacks and challenges, how do you see this research affecting Jamaica's day-to-day education system, especially as we lose teachers to foreign lands?
All right, I thank you for your questions, nested in your question. One, unless would you like to tell me how? Go ahead. All right. So, in 5 years, we have no idea what kind of educative ecosystem we will have. Because right now, what technology has done in a short time has never been seen. What Rosie did say, never been seen this yet? Yes. This has never, the kind of leaps and bounds that have taken place, it's been amazing. So if we're using AI to develop future technology to scaffold education, Jamaica is positioned to be one of the most interesting places, because I heard your Prime Minister last year say Portmore is set to become the next Silicon Valley of this hemisphere. And what that means is that we will be one of the driving hubs for technology and technology integration into education. So that is something to watch. The second part of what you're saying is the challenges are not something that we are scared of, you know, because challenges are actually opportunities to learn, right? So we want the challenges so we can learn from them, but what research, looking at where it has been done elsewhere, the lessons learned can inform how we navigate and plan the future. And future proofing is what we're really about in education in Jamaica, because we want to create learners that not only function now, but can provide the future we want for Jamaica. Thank you. You're most welcome.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I have two questions. One is about academic integrity. How do you address that with the use of AI in classrooms, with students doing work with the AI platform? How do we address academic integrity?
All right, so that's a layered response. Academic integrity is a people problem. So as much as we want to make it about the technology, it's a people problem just as how the gun problem is a people problem, the knife problem. No knife has ever gotten up and stopped anyone without people being involved in the process. So what we have to do is reorient our learners to the fact that what they're gaining from the educative process is far more significant if they are actively part of it. If we create a policy framework that the Ministry of Education is currently doing through their guidelines and policy that they're releasing soon, it gives you the way of going about it. So, who remember when you used to have the airline ticket people, what do you call them? Yes, that word. Travel agent. See, I can't remember. When I was last time you know what travel agent was? Or if you use your phone and go buy a ticket when the travel agent there. What are you using the phone for? The same thing. So AI is being used inappropriately because we have not instantiated the kind of policy and protocols to provide a framework for its use, because it's a wonderful tool. The other challenge is we need to recalibrate all our teaching and learning ecosystems to ensure that it is now a tool used by both the teacher and the student to support further learning. So instead of viewing it as, and how you said that, I remember doing a presentation last year in January at a university, and I was presenting on what artificial intelligence was going to do to the education landscape. And it was interesting when I entered the auditorium, the students sat on one side and all of them were sitting like this. And the faculty sat on one side and all of them were like this. Now for those who are psychologists, what does it mean when you see people say so?
It's closed down.
They come back and they close down. So they're already vexing me. I think some of them, but they're vexing me because I can't tell them that students must use AI. So I say, all right. So one day, how much I don't want to use that on a handling and nail and a piece of board? Now what they're interested in using the handling and nail and board now? I say, alright, so one piece of board here. I want you to cut off 6 inches from the middle. Nobody buy board here, everybody want to use saw. So why are you going to outlaw AI if it's a tool? What you need to do is figure out how do you put the right policy and framework in place so it's a part of how you teach and learn. Because we go further by using the tools that are available. Thank you for your question.
My second question. You make reference to gamification, and my question is, what is put in place to ensure that the aims and objectives are met and that students do not lose the essence of what the games are supposed to be about? How do we address that issue?
And there are other sides to it too, because you still have your assessment rubric.
That's all.
That will guide what measurement of it looks like for the student to self-monitor and you also to be very clear and transparent. And also the fact that it gives way more rewards than a traditional classroom. And people love rewards, you know? People love gifts, people like feeling as if what they do matters, and they like constant feedback, right? So that is why social media companies do so well, because it taps into the feedback requirement that's at the base of most people's genetic makeup. And that's what gamification does, because the constant reward, the scaffolding, the support, it gives you the ever assurance that Jesus is Lord. All right. Thank you for your...
No, we are not finished. How does critical AI allow for critical thinking that it does not reflect that I am copying from my friend here. We are in the same class, same environment, but how does it allow us not to have a clash? In our critical thinking.
Okay, so lady, hold on. We started and I'll finish.
Hold on, 1 minute, please. Let me. There's a dark hearing on the stream, but we only have one mic.
Oh, okay, sorry. And I was using my inside.
Okay, thank you, sir, for your question. All right, so we would have mentioned about the gamification a while ago. There is an app by the name of Conmigo, all right? So that also is a tutor that is used on the AI app. That's one of the many that is out there. Now, what you talk about the critical thinking, let's say for reading comprehension, as you go along, there are different levels. That just like with the game, there are different levels. So you'll know where the weaknesses are as you go along. So using this app, it identifies your strengths, it identifies your weakness, it tells if it is that you have mastered this skill or if it is that you have not mastered it. So you can use the Conmigo. Dr. Lawrence?
Just a lecture for me to get that paper from that students, right? How do I really look at that critical, that student is really thinking what I place or what I lecture that person to that critical thinking. That is what I am looking for.
All right, I tell you what. I think I hear what you're asking. To be honest, artificial intelligence and many other technology assistive tools are going to change the dynamics of traditional teaching and learning. So some of the sage on stage thing is gone, not coming back, and it is going to now be incumbent on us as educators to redesign and recraft how instruction takes place. So for example, I used to teach programming. Now, if I give us any of the assignments that I used to give 15 or 10 years ago, in 5 minutes, every assignment would be done and resubmitted to me because the student would go in and ask any AI to generate some code. But if I say, choose your favorite AI engine, generate 5 of these, compare and contrast to see the weaknesses in how this was targeted, how was it. So I'm now highlighting, I'm turning the student into a consultant, into somebody that is interrogating what is produced from, because guess what? You will even tell them, say, use it and generate a paper, and then you go and find 15 peer-reviewed journal articles to support all the arguments put forward by your artificial intelligence. The last course I taught for CMU, I created a version of me called Dr. O'Neill. And me and him argue over everything because I was trying to figure out the weakness in my courses to strengthen what I delivered to my student. And then that feedback, when we were doing the assessment, my agent was also listening to my students present and critiquing it. And I was saying, no, I had to justify my position because I was using it to sharpen me, and I was also retraining my model to think more objectively, and kind of like me too. But what it does, it gives you a tool that you can then sharpen to accomplish way more. But it's going to mean that you have to go redesign and recraft what teaching and learning and even assessment looks like. Most of us are guilty as teachers of just regurgitating assessments that have been used year after year after year after year from test banks. With that adaptive assessment, I remember one of the engines I deployed in Canada. The student that was stronger got more challenging questions, more challenging content. And what this meant that over time, they were moving further along. Where in a classroom, I've heard people saying them have 40 people in a classroom, 40 students. There's no way you can monitor all 40 and give them prescriptively what they all need to be scaffolded and moved along. So what the artificial intelligence and the adaptive assessment does, it diagnostically tests, it highlights strengths and weaknesses, and it gives you prescriptive support and scaffolding. And that is the strength. So what you're looking for might be dead, but it don't mean that you can't relearn some new tricks that will make your skills and knowledge base useful. Because I can reassure you, just like I can tell you that code that can't come in black and blockbuster is history. I don't know who still use them VCR. I don't. I'm just telling you that the future is here and Industry 5.0 is around the corner, and let's all get on board. It's here to stay.
All right. Thank you. We have time for 2 more questions. I know one is at the back and then one more.
Hi there, David Cuthbert from the Jamaican Institute of Architects. Dr. Lawrence, fantastic presentation. Just in the spirit of, I think, your colleague's question about the 5-year, I would like to find out, what do you see as the biggest challenge in sort of meeting your research goals, and I think general objectives as well, and how do you look at potentially overcoming them?
The big one. All right. The biggest thing was highlighted during COVID-19 was the inequity of access. So when everybody went home and nobody could come out, those who could afford could still learn. Those who could not afford, whether it was laptop, whether it was ISP with good enough bandwidth, whatever their access inequity was, it was real and it prevented them from moving at the pace of everybody else. The same thing still exists post-COVID, where you have access inequity, because if those that can afford it can afford the use of artificial intelligence tools, they will move further along than everybody else. I just told you of an investment banker that was making millions more because he was spending $9 more on his AI subscription. So it means that it gives you an advantage. I won't say an unfair advantage. So what we can move as an ecosystem to do is standardize the integration of these tools across all institutions, from teachers, colleges. Those going out should be trained in it. Those who don't have the skill sets now should be remediated in it and scaffolded, and the tools should be available. So to give you context, on one of the reservations, I had to write a grant paper to get them access because there was no direct link. If most people don't know it, but even your cell phone is dependent on underground cable that links us to the US. That's how internet, no matter what you think is happening, whether you have flow, digital, whatever, you're linked by cable to the US. And what happens on those reservations, there's no cable link anywhere because it's an expensive link. And they were using satellite links that were very slow. I wrote a grant, a paper, and got approval for some Starlink business systems. And we deployed them and meshed the entire community. And what that did, it gave access to everybody. So when I now had students out, on one of the times, one of these young men that was on this, I think this student that answered the most questions actually had an accident, a snowplow accident, and was home, but had access. So while being home, racked in more questions than most of their peers who were actually in school. So it meant that even being home did not preclude them from being a part of the ecosystem of support and learning. And that is what we want to address with integration of technology, and these technologies give us the opportunity to erase inequity in education in Jamaica. So that's my big ticket item, access for all.
Yes, sir. Good evening to everyone. As you said before, the access for everyone. My question was directed down that path because Jamaica still have this internet issue where so many persons does not have access to internet, and the internet service is really poor, like really, really poor. So with AI being introduced to our country, when do you see us really being at that level where we will not have so many issues with the internet? For it to perform in a way it needs to be. I know, but all of that research before decision. So I would like to know when he thinks, because he would have done his research, our technology where AI is concerned will be streamlined in such a way that there's no problems.
Thank you for your final question. That was a good question. All right. So in response, as Dr. Wallace spoke about, Professor Wallace spoke about earlier, is the fact that the research should come before the decisions are taken. I can tell you that how we address access inequity in these remote communities was through using Starlink subscriptions, whether residential or business. It brought connectivity at a level that allowed us to push even business processes using that technology across the network. So Starlink is an option. I had this conversation with the head of e-learning because he served on a committee that I was contributing to as well. And we had a discussion because when I heard the number of students and schools that still did not have access, and this was what, 2024, I almost lost my mind because I thought he was joking. But I looked at the stats and I realized that access can be addressed. And I actually see where now the service, because I have Starlink also here running, and I've run it for the last 2 or 3 years, very stable, and I think it can be deployed. I think we're actually within our institution thinking of testing it as well at a location to be announced soon. So I see it addressed in 2025. I clearly see it, and the spaces that I'm not quiet, you know. I might look quiet now, but I'm not a quiet person. And I'm going to make noise for you on that because it's also a passion on my heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Lawrence and Mrs. Hemmings Holland.
Good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon. Oh, went over time, sorry.
On behalf of all who are present and the Churchtown Polytechnic College, Dr. Lawrence and Mrs. Hemmings Holland, we want to extend our gratitude for your presentation. It was very informative, it was inspiring, and especially for us upcoming teachers who are listening in, we found it to be very, very, very informative on our end because we have some lecturers who they don't really promote the use of AI, and we saw a lot of pros being promoted in this presentation. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope you all have an amazing rest of day. Oh, nice.
On behalf of Churchtown PPT.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, for staying engaged and participating. This is the end of our panel discussion. I was told that lunch is ready, so we are into the lunchtime now. Everyone got access to the program? Okay. Thank you again.